live. Our premium Twitter account is.
We're live, Coach.
Oh, we are. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. Error popped up.
False start. Coach Rowe.
There was plenty of false starts today. Let's start. We are live. Welcome to the BetOnline to the Detroit podcast. It's me. We got 2/3 of the tripod, the bearded bands. We got the madman here. Your boy, Coach Rowe. This is brought to you by BetOnline. Go to BetOnline, put in promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Where the game starts, you get a 50% matchback bonus. And go to Underdog Fantasy, put in promo code USC LAFB, and you get a $100 match bonus. Our welcome sponsors for this Victory Sunday. It's Sunday. Victory Sunday. It's Victory Sunday. I already said it, Victory Sunday. Listen, Madman.
Here we go, Coach. You've been waiting. This is like Mount Vesuvius is ready to erupt.
Madman, for the longest.
He's been trembling, for 9 months, 10 months.
I've been saying that USC does not lose to the SEC. Everybody said I'm crazy. Everybody said I don't know what I'm talking about. Everybody said it's the old USC. I said it's going to be a different offense from Lincoln Riley, and we're going to see a whole different Miller Moss. We're going to see a guy who stands in the pocket and will get hit in the mouth, get right back up, and throw another dart. Madman, listen, I understand. You're going to
breathe, Coach. You can tell me anything you want. Just breathe. That's my only request.
I understand you're going to knock me down off this perch.
No, not at all.
I've been telling people for the longest time. Madman, it was 10-10. USC stopped the run, Madman. Everybody said, well, it was 129 yards. When it mattered, they got the stop. Now, we'll say this. The secondary is not that great. And the secondary is an issue. And it may be because there's no pass rush. We have to do better with the pass rush. I'm not going to take that anyway. But they stopped the run. They didn't get gas. The longest run they got gas for was maybe 35 yards. This is a different USC defense. That box is legit, and nobody could deny it, Madman. I told people for the longest that USC does not lose to the SEC. Or what about Alabama? All right, let's take the odds. We are way over 50% against the SEC. I told everybody this is a foundation year. I told everybody that, hey, SC can win this game. This could be a really good defensive game because I know how to watch film, Madman. I've been watching D'Anton Land for almost 4 weeks, Madman, and I knew what we was going to get. He's always +1 in the box. He's always ready to play the run, and they could have run power. They could have run zone. They could have run anything. The SEC cannot beat USC. We're not back yet, but we're making noise. We're making noise, Madman.
Making noise, Coach.
We're making noise.
Making noise, Coach. Absolutely. Breathe, Coach. Breathe. We're all very excited. This is obviously huge first step here. And I think if you said, what was the ideal outcome? Obviously, we would want to see a victory, but I would say this was the type of score that would be the ideal outcome. I don't think it would surprise people if we got into a shootout, perhaps won the game 49-45, 45-42. I think that would have left us saying, hey, look, Lincoln Riley is who he is, but has this defense turned the corner? But to win a game in this particular fashion, Coach, 27-20, was absolutely sensational. And it was really a classic. This thing, we knew these were two very evenly matched teams. It was going to come down to a couple of plays in the fourth quarter, and that's exactly what happened. Coach, for me, the two most impressive elements of this performance, one, we have to go with Miller Moss, the 27 for 36, the 378 yards, the touchdown. Just all levels of defense, right, Coach? I mean, the back shoulder throws. He did a great job with McCree, that deep fade to Deuce Robinson. He got Branch the ball in space, in stride. Obviously, we're going to talk about Kyron Hudson a ton in terms of what he was able to do with the two spectacular one-handed catches. But Miller Moss's ability to stay in that pocket, Coach, be able to anticipate throws before receivers even turned around, anticipate spots, but then stay in there and take some hits. I mean, he took some licks both in the first half as well as the second half, Coach. Even that deep ball, that beautiful ball to my guy, Jacoby Lane, on that offsides where he knew he had a free play, the presence of mind to go deep a la Aaron Rodgers in those types of situations, but also be able to take a lick, really shows a dynamism and a mastery of this offense that we have yet to see at USC under Lincoln Riley. So game ball number one, first and foremost, in my mind, goes to Miller Moss. And then game ball number two, Coach, this is, as you described it, that front seven to be able to stand tall. Let's not forget, Coach, you talk about the lack of the pass rush. We got to be able to give them a little bit of a free pass. They're going up against Will Campbell and Emory Jones, two bona fide top 15 picks in the NFL draft, and two other offensive linemen that are going to be NFL quality linemen. So this is arguably the best offensive line USC may face all season until a possible postseason berth. So the fact that they could stand tall and not allow LSU to really run away with the game, Coach, on the ground, allowed them to stay in this game to be able to find that rhythm offensively. Coach, I think the game came down to two kind of sequences here. You know, middle of the third quarter, second half of that third quarter, felt like LSU was starting to impose their will. Emory was able to sort of run the ball. It was 17-13. There was kind of a sense of panic on offense. You know, there was that weird trick play with Marks on that lateral. Just felt like things were sort of slipping away. LSU had twice the ball up 17-13. And particularly that second possession, if you recall, there was that 3rd and 1. It was a 2nd and 15. They got it to 3rd and 1. They sort of hurried to the snap, hurried to the line of scrimmage, wanted to do just kind of a quick dive. Gentry dove and just sort of sold out, made that stop. I thought that was a critical play to be able to keep that to be one possession. And then I thought at the very end of the game, SC did enough to kind of get that stop on the field goal. Nussmeier kind of made that mistake on that flat throw on 2nd down. And then Nussmeier is the one who kind of panicked a little bit on 3rd down, probably should have called a timeout, ended up sort of forcing a ball. And then SC got the ball, tied 20-20. That's a very different situation. But it was Miller Moss was unflappable. Miller Moss was unflinchable. He was surgical, and Nussmeier flinched. In that game of chicken, our guy was unflappable, and Nussmeier flinched just a bit on that last possession, and that was the difference in the game. But a really significant outcome here, Coach. 1-0, and now you just sort of think about things differently with so much positivity.
You know what's crazy? So, like, my brothers are here right now. My brothers is here. My little cousin is here. Their wives and everybody there. Little bit. Bruno. Big Hank. FDR, what's up? I'm over here in the next room. They're legit watching on the TV.
Love it.
This is a big time, but check this out. So, you know what's crazy about what you said? So, I'm watching with my brother, Kenny, who went to Oregon, and he's like, Nussmeier needs to stop panicking. Nussmeier needs to stop panicking. And you saw the panic in him. The crazy thing is, like, bro, I said, Miller Moss is a gunslinger. He could throw a pick and not panic. He got on that last drive. There was no panic in him. And this was the first time he was in that situation. The other also crazy thing is earlier today, I was like, everybody is sleeping on Miller Moss. Miller Moss is going to win the Heisman. And they're like, no, I don't think so. I'm not crazy. Miller Moss, to everybody, has a low ceiling and a high ceiling and a very low floor. To me, Miller Moss has a very high ceiling and a very high floor, and he's trying to reach it. Miller Moss is better than people. You got to understand, Miller Moss lost his starting job to a Heisman Trophy winner. This is coming into formation of the SC we saw with Pete Carroll. Hold on, wait. Before we get everybody go crazy, hold on, wait. I'm not saying this is the Pete Carroll stuff, but what I'm saying is Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, John David Booty, who has the record for, who has the record for the most touchdowns in the Rose Bowl. Mark Sanchez, who only played 1 year and then went to the NFL. We're not talking about what he did in the NFL. We're talking about what he did at USC, right? We're talking about Matt Barkley, who became the first true freshman to start as a USC quarterback and put up stupid records, even though his team wasn't very productive because they were in the middle of violations. This is everything we talked about USC. Caleb Williams, who came in the first year and flipped USC from a losing record and took them to potential playoff berth and won the Heisman. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is the foundation. I said this on Tuesday and people said, oh, well, this isn't really a preview show, blah, 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 this and that. This is Lincoln Riley's foundation year. Lincoln Riley is ahead of schedule with this game. Like I put it up there. Everybody says, oh, California boys are soft. You go to the SEC. We'll talk about this and that. Neither here nor there. let's talk about game ball, like you said. My game ball goes to Kyron Hudson. Who would have thought Kyron Hudson would have been wide receiver number 1 tonight? He's always been a 2 or 3. The wide receiver number 1 tonight was Kyron Hudson, and he is a dude. And when I talked to him at the Holiday Bowl, and he was like, this is different. This is very different. We are a different team. We understand what we're going through. And when you see us next year, everybody wants to be here and everybody wants to win. I saw the look in their eye, and it was a different look. I saw
no question, Coach. And I think Hudson kind of stepping in there. I mean, how spectacular was that one-handed catch in the second quarter to set up the first touchdown? I mean, that was arguably the catch of the year in college football already in week 1. And then he followed it up, Coach. Obviously, the 2 final drives, right? The last 2 times that USC touched the ball, it was touchdown. He made a very significant catch on that first drive. Remember, that was a 3-play drive. It went Hudson, run with marks, then the offsides, and then the fade route to Lane. That first ball was significant because it was still kind of 17-13 at that point. It was a little shaky in terms of where the offense was going in that second half. Hudson sort of opened it up. And then the second, great possession, of course, the last possession, Hudson off of that, there was sort of that out route where he got the first down. And then obviously the significant second one-handed catch where he hangs on, gets popped, and really sort of sets the game for victory. So obviously, Coach, Hudson was terrific, but it really was wide receiver by committee. Branch got the ball early in from a dynamic perspective. We saw Deuce Robinson on that fade. Obviously, Lane made his impact, and I thought kind of an unsung hero of the game, Coach, as well, was Lake McCree. I think in terms of when he caught the ball, some really nice disguised plays and schematics from Riley in particular of kind of setting him open. That first ball was kind of a back shoulder. So I think Lake McCree did a fantastic job. It was just sort of wide receiver by committee. And, you just never knew where Miller Moss was going with the ball and really had a command of the offense. And there we see Ryan joining us.
Die. Hey, before I go to Die about his comments, I just want to reach out to all 133 people you guys watching. How does it feel to stop the run? That was a front 7. That was amazing. How does it feel to stop the run? Throw it in the comments. How does it feel to stop the run? Ryan, just got out of press conference. Big win. We beat the SEC again. You know how I feel about the SEC, 100%. We beat the SEC. We're moving forward. We got Utah State next, which it is what it is. But this was a very impressive win. We did not hit the over. We only gave up 24 points.
20.
Ryan, 20. I'm sorry. My bad. 20. I apologize, guys. We only gave up 20 points. This was a defense of a lifetime. I'm saying a lifetime because we haven't seen it in a long time. Ryan, how do you feel about the game? Tell us what came out of those press conferences today.
Well, first off, what's up, fellas? What's a fun
up,
football game. Football's back.
Loved it.
Football's back. And what a way to start the weekend. My goodness.
Yeah, for real. Or I guess technically Monday, Labor Day, we got the weekend. So hope you guys have had a great weekend. Good to see you. I feel like it's been forever. So I was off all last week. So good to be back with you. Sorry for the noise. There's still, it's Vegas. There's still blasting music out here. But what a game. It was, I'm sure you guys have hit a lot of it. So I don't want to do a full recap, but it was fun to watch, competent defense. Still areas to fix, of course. I'm sure you guys mentioned it, but no real pass rush of much. There was a few fun stunts that we saw from Danton Lynn, particularly on that first 4th down stop at the goal line on the first drive. There was a nice stunt blitz that they were able to package, and we saw that a few times, but no real pass rush. But hey, it's week 1, and obviously LSU's got 2 first-round tackles that they're going up against. So thought the run defense outside of that busted 39-yard run, and then there was that one drive that they sustained 5 to 7 yards per carry. But outside of that, I thought the run defense looked really good, and I thought the secondary, played a little softer in the beginning to kind of see what the offense was going to look like, and then really tighten things down in that second half. So it was good to see a defense that was competent, that was doing fundamentals right. It was tackling. The gang tackling, that Kamari Ramsey play in the first half on that 3rd down, that tackle. We didn't see that last year, the last 2 years. So I think things like that were good. And I thought the offense started off a little sluggish, and obviously we know how they finished. And Miller Moss, 378, I think I saw was the 3rd most passing yards for a season opener for a USC Trojan quarterback, which obviously a lot of great Trojan quarterbacks. So he just continues to shine and know his role. You can tell he's beloved by this team. To answer your question, Coach, press conference, I think this is, we'll see. But it seems like a team that's very, happy with the win, but not satisfied. We'll see what that looks like. But I think they were very poised with, just not going into the chatter, just saying, hey, this is week 1. Proud of what we've done. Proud of these guys, but we're on to week 2. But hey, football's back though, boys. I'm happy. It was good.
Football's back. Ryan, before you joined, we were saying, I mean, you covered it really well. It's sort of the things we were talking about. There was that moment I felt at kind of the end of the third quarter where it was kind of gut check time, right? I mean, and kind of what was the sense kind of in the stadium, because it was 17-13, right? LSU had kind of scored a touchdown. Both teams kind of traded stops. There was kind of that panicked sort of trick play, sort of behind the 8 ball. LSU gets the ball a second time up 17-13, and you felt like the game was slipping a little bit. And there was kind of that 2nd and 15. They get 14 yards to the tight end. 3rd and 1, they sort of rush to the line. And I think the Gentry dive to sort of stuff that 3rd and 1, to me, felt like a turning point in that game, because it really looked like if it was continuing to sort of head in that direction, and LSU was able to kind of keep running it with Emory, getting that to a 2-possession game could have been a completely different outcome. I really thought that stand really changed the complexion of that game to keep it 1 score and allow Miller Moss to, do his magic on those last 2 possessions there in the fourth quarter. And kind of holding the rope there is something we haven't seen the last 3, 4, 5 years even with this defense. So what was kind of the sense of with the crowd, Ryan, in terms of kind of ebbs and flows of the game and momentum wise?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. It almost like was a sense of shock, right, after last year, because 17-13. Up to that point, I thought overall the team had played well. They'd missed some opportunities and whatnot, but it was 17-13. It wasn't 40-21 or whatever. So overall played well, but then that felt like, all right, here we go. They're going to let him drive down. They'll take it, like you said, a 2-possession lead. And so, I mean, that stop, you're 100% right, was a huge turning point. And I think the drive, almost the 2 drives before that, was the first time the defense looked gassed. You're like, okay, yeah, they fought hard, they fought valiantly, but they're just a little outsized, maybe a little less talent, just don't quite have it yet. We know this is building, it's a work in progress. They look like they were getting gassed. And then it's like that flip switched and that Gentry stop. And then since then they looked great. And then to couple that with the last drive, I think back to fellas, the Utah game last year, right? When Branch returns the punt down, they score. SC's up. It's like all I got to do is get a stop. They let Utah go down. And yeah, they still let them get down the field. So I'm not saying there wasn't stuff to clean up, but they have that stand in the red zone to hold them to a field goal to give their offense a chance. And that's all you ask for with the Lincoln Riley team is the defense to give your offense a chance. And that's what they did all game. I mean, the defense played admirably, but you're right, Jamal. That was absolutely the turning point. And you could sense the crowd shocked and then just like, this is hard to take now. This is hard to take.
Yeah, exactly. And Ryan, the other thing we were talking about before you joined is right that other moment. I think right at the end of the game, 2 minutes to go. They get it to about 2nd and 7 at the 17, and I thought those next 2 plays after the 2-minute timeout, which is sort of weird to say in college now, right? We got the 2-minute warning here. I thought Nussmeier flinched. I think he missed the throw there. He actually missed the read because I think Emory could have almost walked in if he handed it off to Emory. But so he missed the read and missed the throw. And then on 3rd down, it seemed like, there was some confusion there. They probably should have called the timeout, but he sort of forced the ball there. And it came down to that. I think it came down to those 2 plays where Nussmeier flinched and Miller Moss was unflinchable, there was just that sense of calm when it's a different ball game when it's 20-20 versus, let's say you're down 24-20, you're pressing differently, but, started it with Woody Marks in the flat, found Branch over the middle and just peppered his way down the field. And Moss just seemed that poise. It was almost sort of a Brady-esque poise down the stretch, and Nussmeier flinched. And, when you've got 2 evenly matched teams, and you're almost sort of staring at each other and playing this game of chicken of who's going to flinch first. It was Nussmeier who flinched, and Miller Moss brought it home. And I think to win the way they did, I think is the most gratifying, Ryan, because if, you win 49-45, you win 45-42, you sort of walk away saying what's really changed. But to win in this fashion with the defense holding LSU to 20 points, winning at 27-20, with a quarterback that's sort of unflinchable down the stretch. That, I think, is what really gives this fan base hope moving forward And in a 12-team playoff, schedule breaks right, anything is possible. Granted, it's one game, it's a long college season, but what a great way to sort of kick things off for the Trojans of USC.
Yeah. Go ahead, Coach. Were you going to jump in? Yeah, I totally agree.
No. I was just going to say you're right, Jamal. It is one game, but it's worth getting excited over because, like you said, it was times where they start to get gassed and you start to think like, oh man, here we go. But they made the stop, right? Like it's an issue when we have to say, oh man, here we go. But it should be like, all right, we'll get the stop here and we'll be able to keep moving. And that's what they were able to do. They got the stop there. They were able to keep moving. They were able to overcome mistakes, which is a big deal. They were able to overcome mistakes and they were able to keep everything positive, man. This was just a big win.
Big win. And Coach, one thing I'll say is, there's a couple of, sung heroes, and then I think there's some unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Obviously the sung heroes are Moss and Hudson, and Hudson might win an ESPY next year, for sort of college catch of the year there. I mean, so he may be walking down the red carpet next June. But I think, Coach, the unsung heroes here that are going to get more and more notoriety moving forward. I thought Kamari Ramsey, I thought Mason Cobb, and I thought Gentry were phenomenal in particular in in this game. I mean, Ramsey, his ability to kind of direct traffic on the back end of the defense, but also just his play in the box, as well as kind of side to side. Ryan, you alluded to it on that one stop, and just his ability to wrap up and really sort of change kind of momentum in terms of certain possessions with LSU, and just his discipline and his mind was significant. And then I thought Cobb was just kind of wreaking havoc there inside the box, really was a linchpin as to why LSU was kind of struggling to be able to run the ball. And then Gentry with his frame, he tipped the ball. He was out there. He was really making some big plays. We talked about the dive. So I thought those three guys in particular, and I think it needed to be those three guys. We talked about this big matchup being, the 1,400 extra pounds against the 4 NFL picks, on the offensive line. And so it was sort of ironic that, we thought, hey, they need to get a little bit of a pass rush. If they could do that, they could win the game. But it really was, ultimately, it was Cobb, it was Gentry, it was Ramsey kind of fortifying that defense to propel this team to victory.
Yeah, I'll just add, please, I'm not trying to compare it because we're not even close to that yet. But this linebacking core of Mascarenas, Arnold, Cobb, and Gentry in one game is the best we've seen in quite some time for these three. And usually, only two play at a time. But just as a unit, I thought all three of them played really well. And you mentioned it, Jamal. Cobb played like we thought he would have played last year when he transferred over from Oklahoma State. Now that he's in that kind of Sam role and not having to be or in that Will role, not have to be the Mike.
Right.
With Mascarenas Arnold doing that, he looks like he truly fits in that. And then before I go back to you, Coach, this last player I'll shout out too, because I agree with all those. But I thought Jaylin Smith had a really nice game as well. A lot of good open field tackles. And, he moved. We talked about it last year. He was really the slot, the nickel guy, and they moved him to the outside this year in the starting outside corner, which I think surprised a lot of people and looked really, really good and really good in space with his open field tackling, which is, encouraging to see.
Yeah, no doubt. That's great. I mean, I'm at the point to where,
we gotta keep Coach control. Coach is if a coach is gonna be a sociopath, man. By tomorrow, I mean, we gotta keep him controlled right now. He's ready to explode.
I mean, I don't have anything else.
You need a towel. You're all sweating.
I am. I'm drenched over here. It was last minute. I've been enjoying my Labor Day weekend. I should say that.
As you should.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, but I don't have anything else to say, man. I'm just proud of those dudes. I just love the game. Like people said, there was so many hats on the ball. I lived everything that happened. I had all that I had to say out. So I don't have anything else to say. If you
Coach, I mean, I think this is and I think the schedule breaks really nicely moving forward now. To be 1-0, obviously you got kind of Utah State at home. Not ideal in terms of time, but you can sort of work some kinks, now. Yeah. And I think moving forward, what we want to see is, again, sort of fortification of the defense. Probably want to see a pass rush moving forward a little bit. Ryan, I give the pass rush a pass, sort of pun intended. Yes. You're going up against arguably the best offensive line in the country, and so, you got to temper expectations there. So let's see what this sort of front four looks like when they're not playing, 4 NFL players and sort of go from there. And then second, I think the one thing we probably want to see a little bit more of is the ability to run the football consistently, right? I thought Woody Marks obviously did a great job there at the end with the final touchdown, and he had a couple of runs there at the end of the first half, but that was a little bit more kind of Lincoln playing with numbers, in a 1 minute type of situation. LSU was in a little bit more of a prevent, kind of willing to concede the field goal. Outside of those 3 runs, it was really difficult to find some running lanes. So I think moving forward now, what we want to see is an offensive line that can sort of open up some holes, kind of create some balance, because I'm not sure, holistically, can you kind of consistently win, throwing for 378, but only rushing for 70. You probably want a little bit more balance there. So I think what we want to see is the running game next week with Utah State, and then also, the emergence of the pass rush, and then you get the bye, and then you go at Michigan for another test. So I think the schedule breaks really nicely, and my goodness, I mean, how different a world it is to be 1-0 versus 0-1 here. I would not want to be in that LSU locker room right now, 0-1, staggeringly for a 5th consecutive year. LSU has not won a season opener since the Joe Burrow LSU year. Wow. I mean, it's unfathomable to me how that is the case. But LSU now's 0-1 streak goes to 5. I would not want to be on that plane ride home. It's always so much better to be able to learn from victories than it is from defeats. So, 1-0, and we march on.
Did you guys, I know you guys jumped on before, you may not have seen it. Did you see Brian Kelly's comments? Just to your point, Jamal, not happy.
No, he's not happy. Not happy.
I think he said,
at all.
I'm paraphrasing, but he said it's the maddest I've ever been in a football team. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. No, I think I think he saw some things where he probably saw an opportunity to win. I mean, even down at the end there. I mean, this thing was down to the last 2 minutes, and it came down to execution of a couple plays. So I think obviously year 3, right? So think of where we would be right now if this was sort of an 0-1 start. What the tenor would be. So, but great to be 1-0, and let's see where this season takes us, guys.
Yeah, and just to look ahead, because the game's over now. We'll talk looking ahead, and it's 1 week, so there's not a lot you can take from everything. But based on what we saw from the college football landscape this weekend, I mean, outside of Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier may have been the best quarterback USC will face all season long. When you look at what the rest of the Big Ten did and whatnot, they're obviously guys are going to improve. Offenses are going to improve just like the USC offense, but it's got to be at least encouraging knowing the offenses they're going to go against. They're not going against Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, the likes of all these different quarterbacks, the gauntlet they had last year in the Pac-12. It's going to be a much different style of offense, and they may have potentially faced the best quarterback that they're going to face.
No, Ryan, it's a great point. I mean, and we'll get into it for sure. I mean, I think Allard looked really good against West Virginia. There was sort of a verticality to Penn State that we haven't seen before. And then I think the other guy, I completely agree with you. The wild card is Raiola. I mean, Pat Mahomes the second. I mean, I think Raiola is probably going to be a little bit of a problem. But I'm with you. I mean, even when you look at Michigan, I mean, obviously that's going to be the next big game. A struggle, 13-3. Going into the fourth quarter there. I mean, it was 20-10 at one point, 23-10. I mean, that pick 6 really kind of changed how that score looked like. Michigan's got some issues with the pass game, and then Notre Dame. I mean, they dragged it out in a slog it out game, but I don't think you walk away saying Notre Dame is this sort of vertical juggernaut just yet. I mean, I think there's a lot of work in progress there. So definitely agree with you in that regard. So that's why I think that's what made this win even more critical. And we see where this thing can go. And that combined with the fact now, Ryan, obviously with the 12-team playoff, this margin for error, I mean, this is a team that's going to be right there. They're either going to sort of potentially be fringe in or fringe out. But I mean, I think right now it's very fair to say that the playoff is very much within the grasp.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to Coach. He was just so excited.
I don't know what happened to Coach. I mean, Coach has lost his mind, right? So, Coach has dropped the mic and he is out. But Ryan, I know you've had a gauntlet of a day too from, being in Mexico yesterday and being in Vegas today. So, thanks for all that you do for the LA Football Network, and great to see you, my friend. And, we can wrap here. Let's get you some rest, man. Let's get you home as well, after a long day, I'm sure.
No, I appreciate it. Appreciate you. And yeah, you guys were heavy on the UCLA game yesterday going live and now this. So thank you for that. And yeah, I got in last night at midnight. Drove out here this morning, and I'm actually driving back after this. I'm not even going to stay the night. So it's going to be an all-day sleep fest tomorrow. But what a fun game. What a way to start the season. So glad football's back. So glad to be doing it again with you, Jamal. Let's end with this, just to kind of put a bow on it. And you guys may have we've kind of touched on it through the whole thing, but one positive takeaway, one negative takeaway from the game. Start with the negative, end with the positive, of course. So just what's one, maybe not negative, but just like biggest thing to work on, and then one thing you're most impressed by. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Ryan, I'm going to say it is I think the physicality of the offensive line to be able to create running lanes. I think that's probably the one critique here, because I think, even though LSU was an explosive offense, I don't know if you can sort of survive with that lack of imbalance over the course of the season, so I think the running game to me and really the offensive line's ability to sort of open up holes, win the line of scrimmage, I think is critical. No, and I think on the positive here, how can it not be the front seven, of a team that, we had so many questions about, but I love the athleticism of what we're seeing. Ryan, you mentioned it with kind of the three rotating linebackers. But even sort of on the edges, you look at Shelby, you look at Lucas, you look at Jamil, and then even on the interior, with Bear and Clifton and so forth. I mean, I just think there's such a great rotation there, that front seven, that I'm really excited about. Knock on wood, let's hope everybody's healthy and this depth sort of maintains itself over the course of the year. But I think front seven depth is what I'm most excited about. And I think offensive line physicality is probably the thing we need to work on the most.
Yeah, totally agree with both those. If I'm going to choose two different ones, I would say probably, biggest to work on is, I don't even want to go different. I think it's just, the running game consistency. I think there's not, I don't take a lot of negatives away. Everything can improve. Obviously, you can elevate everything in this game. The passing game consistency, the play calling consistency, maybe some of that clock management we saw there at the end of the half and whatnot, and the timeout usage in that third quarter or early fourth, burning 2 timeouts. I know there was some confusion there, and it's game 1, so seeing that improve, I think, would be positive. Positive for me, I think it was a really disciplined team tonight, and it's sometimes harder to tell when you're at the game versus on TV. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think Anthony Lucas had the one kind of unsportsmanlike after the extra point. But outside of that, I mean, I thought this was a really disciplined team overall. Low penalties. I thought they just looked poised throughout. So I just think as a coaching group unit, it's been a hell of a job throughout the offseason and something to build upon.
Ryan, that was really well said, because I think in a lot of ways, if you look back and you add up, we're all going to talk about kind of the 2 key moments of this game. But when you add up, play over play over the course of 120, 150 plays in a game, this game actually came down to discipline and the penalty yardage, because LSU kind of made a bunch of boneheaded errors. One in particular, if you recall, that drive where it was 17-13, you alluded to it, the 2 timeouts, the 2 batted balls. It looked like at one point there was even, the LSU guy kind of caught the deflection and then fumbled, and, there was sort of that review. But if you recall, LSU player takes the helmet off, and LSU gets pushed back with the ball, at the 21-yard line. Just given the way that game was going, if LSU starts at the 36 as opposed to the 21, it just feels very differently. And I thought LSU really shot themselves in the foot with penalties. Totally sort of by their own doing. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why Brian Kelly is so furious, because it was all very self-inflicted. And SC, again, going back to that theme of sort of being unflinchable, they stayed in the moment, they stayed disciplined when LSU kind of lost it. In a game with essentially 2 evenly matched teams, it's really that at the margins. It comes down to it. A couple plays and sort of a couple of disciplinary behaviors is ultimately what makes the difference. And SC held their nerve. So really great point there.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. So, I think we can end it with that. Great start to the 2024 season, 27-20 win. I feel like, Jamal, we've been talking about this for 10 years, and finally we can actually talk about real football. So it's good to jump on with you and Coach. He said his internet died in the middle of it, so that's where he went. But
his internet died, and he also lost his mind. So
I think it was more that he was doing a beer shower or something, which well deserved. So
absolutely.
But thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. 230 people in here right now. This is awesome. Always love seeing it. We'll be back, obviously, all week. We'll be doing these lives we'll probably play it. Like, I'm sure next week we won't do it right after the game, since it's an 8:00 start. We'll do our Sunday morning live show, but we'll do some right after the game, some the next day on Sunday. But obviously we'll keep you guys posted. So thanks everyone for hanging out. But Jamil, man, great to see you. Thanks for doing this. Great win. Start the week with 2-0 in LA.
1-0. 1-0. Fight on victory Sunday. Victory Sunday night. Great way to start the season for sure.
That's right. Well, thank you all, everyone. Have a great Labor Day. We'll talk to you guys all here in a couple days. For Jamal Madney, for Coach Rowe, I'm Ryan Dyrett. Everyone fight on. Thanks for tuning into the USC LAFB